Don't worry, chat, I didn't die. I took the time to use the bathroom because I knew the credits were coming, so I was like, hey, before I like talk about the game and dive into the post game because I think the thunder stopped, I'm gonna actually use the restroom. Good time to. Oh, this is nice. We're getting pictures of seeing everyone. Classic, classic. Very nice, very nice. Well, there you go. Main story of Dragon Quest XI is complete. My goodness, almost 70 hours. And we're not even done because we got post-game, which, it's a post-game. I'll put it like that. Like, post-game is gonna take us, at least a couple more streams. So we're not, like, we're close to being done, but we're not quite, like, nearly done. We still got a lot of stuff to do. We're definitely not, like, really close to being done, but we're not too far from being done either. Yeah, of all the acts, because Act 3 is post-game, probably maybe will end up being the shortest one, but we still have a lot more game to go. Basically. But yeah, Dragon Quest XI, done. Main game is done, at least, not the playthrough. Dude, I really like that scene where we're all on Cetacea and Serena starts playing the harp and we all fly away. Yggdrasil coming back. Man, it's a neat ending. I'm not gonna talk too much about the ending for reasons. But, let's talk about the game. I spent like 70 hours with this playthrough so far, basically, so I'm gonna talk about the game Act 1 and 2, because this is very much the main game and there's enough to talk about. This game is great. If you've been watching this playthrough, or if you watch other playthroughs, I've talked about it, it's no secret that I absolutely adore this game. This is a really, really phenomenal game. It's definitely in my top 5. Gameplay, you know, the gameplay is not like super interesting, but the gameplay is good enough. I don't need like a super engaging combat system, but character builder system is interesting enough. The characters are diverse enough. I love the different class styles they have and the weapons. Experimentation's a lot of fun. I love exploring the areas. That's also great. Riding a horse. Eventually you could ride a saber cat. That's also really cool. Apparently that's only in Definitive Edition though. That's really, really cool. It's a really fun game to just look around. It's beautiful. Love the graphic style. Even the Switch version, which had the downgrade Unreal Engine 4, but they still did well with it. But yeah, the characters are amazing. I love the cast in this game. They all have really good arcs and really great resolves and everything. And the way they grow throughout the game is so good. Oh, there's Serena right now. Crying about Veronica, most likely. Oh, man. I do like this very Graces-esque ending where we're watching everyone, like, depart. This is very much like Lineage and Legacy's ending, where everyone, like, they drop off each character. Very, very neat. But yeah, great game. The story is also surprisingly, it's good. I like the story of this game. I would never say, like, hey, Dragon Quest XI tells, like, the best plot of all time. I really like... Let's talk about what I like with the story. Like... I definitely think it's no secret that the first act of the game is, like, the weakest, because it's mostly, like, hey, going to towns, meeting the party members, going on your journey because you're the destined hero. So, it's no secret that that's the weakest point of the game, and it takes a while to get going. But, dude, Act 2 is amazing. The twist with Mordegon, like, destroying Yggdrasil, dude, that got me. I think Jasper's a neat villain. I really like the build-up to Jasper, like, following their every move, and then the characters thinking, like, oh, we're gonna just go to Yggdrasil, and the world will be saved, and everything's gonna be okay, but the game completely throws you into a plot twist. It does it really well. I think it does the plot twist incredibly well, where Mordegon just destroys the tree, and then Veronica has to sacrifice herself. And Act 2's tone is really interesting. Dude, it's so nice to see Mia again. Cannot wait for Treasures. Act 2 is amazing because it does well with the character arcs. Sylvando and his father. Eric's backstory is really good with Mia. Serena. I don't like Serena's haircut very much, but her moment is great. Rab's thing with the other kings and everything is neat. Hendrik and Jasper. It's all so great. Act 2 did such a good job with the tone, basically. Act 1 presents you to the worlds. Act 2 does well to expand on that and show you how everyone is getting along after the fall of Yggdrasil. But, yeah. Another thing I want to talk about is the towns. They are all very, very diverse and very, very colorful. The accents really set them apart from each other. I honestly think Erdrea is one of my favorite worlds. My favorite world will always be Spira from FF10 and 10 too. Erdrea might be up there. I love the towns in this game. I love the world in general, the lore, the stuff with the Luminary of Legend. Every time they bring up the Luminary of Legend, drawing parallels to... I know Dragon Quest 3 is like customizable party, but to have placeholder characters from 3 hearing what they did, it does it really well, connecting with the lore. But yeah, just great stuff. Dude, I can gush about this game all day. But this is a review, and you're probably thinking, Nova, you love this game so much, it's phenomenal. Why is it not in your top 5? This is in my top 10. It's probably number 6 or 7. I'd probably put it at number 7. I think I like Grandia 2 more than this game. I don't know. Because Grandia 2 has my favorite protagonist, and the plot of Grandia 2 is great. I don't know. 6 or 7 for this game, ranking-wise, but I'm about to tell you why this game's not in my top 5. There's a couple of stuff that, like, I wouldn't say I don't like about the game, but things that, like, aren't as good or could have been better. Again, as I said, Act 1 is really slow. Takes a while to get going. I could totally see someone being like, oh, when's this game get good? This game is really, really, this game is really boring. I could see someone playing the first act and being like, hey, this game is really boring. When does it pick up? So, yeah, it has a really slow start. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I definitely think, like, I think it does take the time to introduce you to the world and your characters. But I think the main thing about this game, this kind of goes into multiple things, but I think the main thing that makes Act 1 excruciatingly slow is the Luminary. Like, I know it's a tradition. Oh wait, I'm gonna see if we get a cutscene first. I'll continue talking about this. Oh, would you look at that? Teaser time. This is kind of teasing the what the post game is gonna entail. Wow. I cannot wait to do post game. I'll get to that in a minute, though. I want to finish talking about the game, even though, again, we're not done with the game, but I want to talk about the game. So I'm going to stay at the screen for a bit. But, I think the Luminary in this game, the hero, whatever you want to call him, I think he breaks most of the immersion from the story and Act 1. Now, I know Dragon Quest is known for having silent protagonists, and I know that most games do silent protagonists, and I've gone on record to say I don't really care. I don't like silent protagonists. I'd rather have a main character. But most games do a decent job. Like, take Ys 9, for example. Sure, that game focuses on Adol, obviously, but the game does a good enough job at branching out to other party members when need be. So, even though Adol's a silent protagonist, and I kind of wish he wasn't, it still does a good job with the story. I mean, that story is, like, very mixed. I have some problems in the late game of the story, but either way, Ys 9's story is, like, overall good. It doesn't do everything to focus on Adol. But the problem with this game is, the story, the way the story is told, it revolves around the Luminary, and the Luminary is a silent protagonist. So you can only do so much with it. Like, everyone's like, oh, you're the destined hero, gotta save the world, and, like, big reveals, like who your parents really are, you being, like, a descendant of Dundrasil, and Mordegon basically, like, quote-unquote, killing the Luminary at the Yggdrasil tree. So moments like that just feel like they don't feel as impactful as they could. Another moment is the part where you like set your dad's ghost free, the restless armor portion of the game. So I think the problem with the story, like, again, the story's too bare bones. That's one thing. For Act 1, it's very bare bones, and in Act 2, it gets a little more interesting. The plot's just good. That's probably one reason why this is not in my top 5, but in my top 10. Another reason is just the Luminary. I think the game just, like, it hard focuses on the Luminary so much, and the Luminary has, like, very little to no expressions. So it's kind of hard to immerse yourself into the story. It's kind of hard to really, like, get invested in the Luminary because he's a silent protagonist. He's a blank slate. They intend for you to put yourself into him. But honestly, I don't like that. This is why I like having characters that have established personalities and voices. Like, this is why silent protagonists don't work for me. Some games don't focus on the protagonist. It's kind of like in Three Houses, when Geralt dies. When Geralt dies in Three Houses, it's really hard. Like, obviously, you know, Geralt was cool. It's sad. But it's kind of hard to feel for Byleth or get invested because Byleth is a silent protagonist and has very little expression. The game just revolves around the Luminary, and it's really hard to immerse yourself in the cutscenes and some of the events happening. I'm not going to say this outright ruined the game, or I'm not going to say it outright is terrible, per se. But it's a problem when they want to tell the story they do. The story could have been amazing if either A, this is the Unreal option, but if either A, they made the character not silent and then made him have a personality, but it's Dragon Quest, they would never do that. Or B, just like, I feel like other Dragon Quest games, like Dragon Quest 8 doesn't really hard focus on the hero. Sure, he's the main character, but the game doesn't really hard focus him. The game, like, does good at shifting focus to, like, King Trode, Genghis, Angelo, Jessica, etc., and all of them, and Domagus being the antagonist. So, I just think Dragon Quest 11, especially compared to 8, which is another recent one I played, it just hard focuses on the Luminary, and the Luminary is silent, so it's kind of hard to really follow a story with a character that doesn't interact or doesn't express himself to, like, what's going on to the events around him. So I don't think it's like a bad, like a really bad thing, but it just kind of took away from the story a bit, just a tad, just to see all this stuff happening. And yeah, like Act 2, I think Act 2 is great because it does good at focusing on the other characters. But Act 1 is very much like, hey, you worry about the town NPCs or the Luminary. But it's kind of hard to care about the Luminary, so you kind of just worry about the town NPCs. So I think Act 1, is more guilty of this because Act 1, like, focuses on introducing the characters, and the characters don't really do much until, like, late Act 1, early Act 2. Act 2 of the game does better because they got the interludes. The interludes are amazing. I want to talk about those for a bit. The interludes were really great for filling in plot holes, seeing what Eric's been up to, Jade's been up to, Sylvando getting his soldiers of Smile, and seeing the Luminary born in the coronation with Rab. Those were neat. I think they really did good for showing the characters and what they were doing after Act 1 and focusing on them a little bit. And I think Act 2 in general did a lot better at shifting focus, even though it was they still had the whole, like, jarring part where, like, hey, they focus on the Luminary, but it's really hard to get invested. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to bring up. I want to talk about this now because I'm not going to talk about it anymore. So I just wanted to bring this up now, that I feel like the reason the story isn't amazing is because, first of all, like, not even being bare bones. A story could be bare bones and streamlined and not as deep and still be good. Look at Grandia. That game's plot is great. And that has an actual talking protagonist. But, I think the real reason the plot fails, for me at least, is the Luminary. And just him being a blank slate. So the story they want to tell doesn't really blend well with the blank slate of the Luminary. But either way, they do really good with the characters. The story does good enough. As I said, I really think they did good with the plot twist leading from Act 1 to Act 2. Act 2 also had it was really just about the characters, to be honest. Like, the overall story was, like, very straight to the point. It really was about the characters. I really like the characters and the lore of the Luminary of Legend and the world and everything. So all of that did well. And I think this is going to be the last thing I want to talk about. The music in this game, it's not very good. Like, I'm going to talk about this. It's like, it's not awful. There are tracks that I'm like, hey, this is amazing. But, like, the music didn't, like, the sad music was always good. I've always liked the sad music, like, when you're, like, feeling, like, when Veronica died, the music that played there, like, it really fit the mood. But, like, the music, it's very repetitive, And you can tell that they didn't really use enough tracks in this game. And that's what I mean about the music not being very good. Like, some of the tracks are, like, fine. It's, like, tolerable. It's okay. But when you're playing, like, a 60 to 70 hour game, it starts to get to you. I played this for almost 70 hours in this playthrough. I played it 2 other times and never really, like, noticed it that much. But not to say the music, like, sucked. But they reused too many tracks, honestly. It feels like Star Ocean 5 bad, and that's really saying something. And the music they have is good, and they barely have any unique tracks. So I really just think the music was overused too much, and it kind of takes you out of it a bit, and it gets really, really repetitive, especially for a long game like this. I don't think I'd have a problem if the game wasn't so long. But since the game is so long, they reuse a lot of the music, and that it started to bother me in the later half of the game. It didn't bother me as much like 30 to 40 hours in, like, shockingly. Once we got to like the 50 to 60 hour mark, it started to bother me, like, oh my goodness, hearing this track again. Some of the tracks they have are good, they're okay, they get the job done. The sad music was really investing. I was invested in the sad moments with the sad music, but like some of the other themes, just like the town themes, they only have one town theme for every single town, at least 80% of the towns. So I think the music is just fine, tolerable, but I think the main problem is that they reuse a lot of the tracks. So that was disappointing. But, alright, did I talk about everything? I talked about the characters. Characters are really good. I talked about the story. Talked about the music. Talked about the gameplay. I don't think there's anything else really to say, at least without doing the post-game. Maybe when I do the post-game, I'll have, like, an extended review. Talk about other stuff, but, I don't think there's anything else right now. But yeah, overall, the story was, like, it was good. It got the job done. I think the characters made it good. Again, I wish the Luminary wasn't, like, the hard focus, because that, like, made the story not as great. But, you know, it wasn't the worst thing in the world, because the other characters got their time to shine, too. And I definitely liked it, yeah. Really, really like the characters. And, you know, the villains are lacking because the Lord of Shadows gets, like, no screen time. Jasper was an interesting villain. I really like Jasper and Hendrik's story. And, you know, the Sentinels were neat. Some of them were, like, neat concepts, but, like, you know, more than servants. So villains didn't really do it either. But, yeah. I think that's it. I think that's all I have to say about this coming off of the end of Act 2. Let me save my game. But yeah, we're gonna do the post game. I'm gonna end the video in case people don't wanna, or first of all, outro to make it easier. Second of all, in case people just want to stop watching the playthrough, I wouldn't recommend stop watching the playthrough. Like, just like at least watch the next. Like, I would recommend watching the post game for reasons that are about to come up. But you know, if people don't want to watch the post game, they don't have to. It's fine. The end. The Lord of Shadows is defeated, and peace returns to the world. A few days later, Nova and his companions gather in Arborea to remember that their friend, Veronica. I shouldn't have said that. It wasn't in the sentence. To be continued. That's why, chat. That's why. There's a whole post-game story. Act 3 is a post-game story, so I mean, you know, if you're a viewer on YouTube and you don't want to watch, if you're done with Dragon Quest 11, understandable. You know, I can't make you watch, obviously, but like, honestly, I would, if you're satisfied with this ending, then yeah, you can jump ship here. That's totally fine. I would recommend watching the post game because there's more to the story. But yeah, those of you watching, hope you all enjoyed the main game of Dragon Quest 11. Post game is kind of it's kind of like a Lineage and Legacies deal because it's said to be continued, so it's like a story, so. But still, all in all, it's really just a post-game. It's still a post-game with a story, so this is the end of the main game. If you're done watching Dragon Quest 11, thank you so much for watching. It's been fun, and I look forward to, I'll do other Dragon Quest stuff. I'll probably do 3, 4, and 5 at some point in the future, not anytime soon. But yeah, Twitch don't go anywhere. I'm gonna keep streaming. I'm just ending the YouTube video. But, you guys on YouTube who are done watching, thank you. Or if you know, if I see you in the post game, I see you in the post game. If not, then thank you for watching. See you all next time.